eyes on that tail feather. Royal peacocks. Booties in the Bible, Free Willy YouTubes. Still planning a trip to England. Hagrid. Pay attention to the eye color. The eye color is very important. The eye color will never be green because the color green is for very small. One big eyeball, one small eyeball. Chocolate cookies. We want to give our little green eyeball into their one big eyeball. Going underwater will simply magnify the lens. It's the one which winks, not the one which stinks. Next, a segment of bird fight documentary. Is this bird a mean twerp? Is he associated with some kind of army? And is he there when Laban becomes skinny? Laban means white. Pharaoh Joseph was just born. Is he there again when the atom bomb is dropped? Zechariah chapter 11 is associated with this bird via Isaiah 6, 7, and 8. 6 plus 7 made 13. He did some Matthew at Matthew 13 with the same verse. And is it not associated with birds? And somebody tempts Jesus while he's fasting to throw himself off a cliff and he will catch himself. And Daniel chapter 9, on the wing of an abomination, is another vehicle which will make empty, showing that there's a connection between this parasitical bird and man to do harm. Is this bird an asshole? Peacock eye winks. Look how he treats this innocent moth. The bird is able to use shock sound waves. Attacked by sound. Just look at the meanness of this bird. Okay, this has been an independent study and podcast on the behavior of birds in this field, this time frame. Until next time, over and out. Next, similarities between mummies and moths and birds and moths. The reason why I say birds and moths is because birds are moths. When you look at moths, you'll see feathers. And when you look at birds, you'll oftentimes see these bulgy eyes. You would wonder if birds are trying to live a long time and they not able to reincarnate the body like moths and caterpillars do, oftentimes leaving a shell, which is also in similitude of something with no organs in it, kind of like a mummy. So that the outer exterior of a moth's cocoon still looks like a mummy's wrappings, but the organs which are missing when the moth comes out of its shell are like the organs of a mummy, which are missing. From there, we want to make sure we understand that the bird is a moth, and that the bird living a long time could show similarities to the moth's deshelling self. Remember to ask your neighbor, rob your neighbor, because this is where it starts getting good. So now we're going to take ourselves to why we think memory is growth, and baby portions would stick out that you may have been able to acquire, which you will fall back onto these baby portions. What we want to do is fall back onto these baby portions, and we want to loosen the body up and let that baby portion circulate through the body at the loose time frame. What you can look for is bone marrow and lungs, and they say this is the spot where you have a very brand new pink like flesh, and then and they say this is what birds and societies have been using. And so they're going to take that baby stuff and you're going to loosen your body, and where you loosen that body at, you'll see around you, look around you, you'll say this is where it circulates at, and this is where those bone marrow specks then turn into lungs, and where you start to not touch the old and new garments. Okay, and then we're going to look at these moths, and we're going to claim that as they're coming out of their shell, you will see these gooey eyes, and you see these gooey eyes on Hindu children. And when you see certain birds, like the hummingbird moth, which starts to grow its feathers, and other birds, you'll be able to associate the fact that these birds really are moths, and they simply have feathers from their mothhood and gooey eyes, bulging eyes. Well, they are still performing the art of gooey eyes and gooey body parts. Once you get into the eyes, and then you reflect a little bit and you say to yourself, well, I have a brand new part, I've been working a little bit, I have a brand new part which I'm falling back onto. If we let it circulate like the bone marrow, and while the body is loosened up, you'll take a look around you and you'll say, the birds are doing this all the time. This is the one thing we were missing. And it all deals with the similarities between mummies and moths and birds and moths, and the fact that the bird is still a moth. And that you're going to be looking for gooey eyes and things which deshell themselves and come out and have those gooey eyes, where they're saying that same speck is the same pink, very brand new vertebrae, which when one is loosened up in their body and is relaxed and loosened up in their body, that it circulates through the body and goes for bone marrow and lungs and turns over a new leaf, one which can fall back onto the new self, feels very brand new. Needing room to grow seems to be acceptable to these gooey parts. Parts like your tailbone. It feels like the little pink fleshes, and things to look out for. Air stacks as a baby, outer versus inner shell air stacks. Memory. And then were fingernails that were glossy and around the eyes, like when you're first born, those kind of brand new things. Or inhaling air and water. That is one who breathes in air and water from a younger source, not an older source, and gets used to not touching old and new, and that you're happy as a baby, and put that happy where you're not breathing, and look for hard bone marrow. And that is an electron, which, by the way, under an attack by outside influences, which are exactly why all these people still know this stuff, that the bird is actually a moth. They actually know that. And so you'll be able to see that almost immediately, and that's one of the reasons why you want to ask your neighbor and steal everything. And you will get those baby time frames and that turnover rate that you see. Okay, and so those are some of the big secrets of today. And we're going to be wishing you guys a lot of luck out there, and praying for our family. Over and out.